Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
It's going wonderful. Hope all the listeners out there you guys are doing phenomenal as well. We're here in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's very nice outside. It's definitely heated up, and man, I love the hot weather, so I'm enjoying it. I don't know about Raphael over there, but I am. So business is good and great. And I'm following up on my educational piece that is going to further my career. So 20 years in and, hey, going back to school. But you know what? There's always that lifetime continuing education. So grateful for it. What about you, my friend? How's it going over there?
Doing well, yeah. Same as you. I actually am glad it's warm. I just got back from Puerto Rico recently, and it's nice to be in an environment where you don't have to wear a coat. I lived in Arizona, I lived in Puerto Rico, and the warm weather is definitely, it does well for me. I definitely appreciate it. And speaking of, warm weather and great conversation, and this gentleman that we actually interviewed today is actually from a warm weather climate in Ecuador. His name's Andrew Bermudez. He's he's a CEO of Digsy. Digsy is a commercial real estate technology platform. It allows people to be able to list their properties for lease or for sale on the platform. And then they also offer add-ons on top of that. If you're looking to find people to be able to, provide marketing services for you, whether that's taking pictures or videos or aerial shots and drones, et cetera. Matterport, which is a 3D platform that can, give you virtual tours of spaces, along with, having the ability to be able to hire people to do cold calling and all these other things that are essential to building a commercial real estate business. So it's a phenomenal platform, one that, brokers and owners alike can gain a lot of value from. And so we had the honor and privilege of being able to interview him about his backstory and learn a little bit more about what he's been able to do over the last decade or so. And so one thing we talked about especially was related to, why he got into the commercial real estate industry to start off with. He actually was born in Ecuador and moved to the United States in the early 90s, and then got into commercial real estate really early on. I think he was 19 years old when he jumped into the brokerage space and achieved a lot of success, became a senior vice president, Lee and Associates at 26 years old, which is definitely, an impressive feat to do. I mean, that's not something that people do or that early on in their career. So he had a lot of success in the brokerage business, but he always had an itch for technology. He was a self-taught programmer, and then, continued to scratch that itch over time. And right around the time of 31 years old, he wanted to take the leap of faith into starting something on the technological front. And since he had been in the commercial real estate business for many years, he decided to, take the leap into doing that. And, he got pretty raw, which is awesome. He talked about some of the struggles he faced early on. His first two ventures did not succeed, unfortunately, due to the misunderstanding of what the total addressable market was for those products. And then eventually he dove into Digsy and, created a value proposition for the marketplace that has been really successful over the last year or two. And he even mentioned how they're in growth mode and hiring mode right now because of the success they've experienced. And just to round off the podcast, we talked about the future of his organization and then touched on some of the most impactful books that he's read. One being a book that Jeff and I both find extremely valuable. And so we kind of nerded out a bit on that particular book and talked about some of the insights we gained from it. So really insightful conversation. As a Latino myself, it was great to see another commercial real estate professional that was in the space. It's definitely one where, I'd love to see more diversity, and it's already happening over time. So it's great to see another person of similar background to be able to talk to in the space. So Jeff, what do you think about that?
It's a great guy, Andrew. I like that his enthusiasm and passion for the CRE tech and his willingness to give a lot to the community. And I can't wait for everyone to go check out Digsy and see the experience that he actually created and formed. And it's kudos to him. So I can't wait for you guys to listen to this episode.
Definitely. No, for sure. And another thing we wanted to add, and I know Jeff and I say it every single episode, but we do greatly appreciate your guys' support. It's really humbling to see, all the people that have reached out to us, all the people who have left 5-star reviews and people who have liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel. It makes a huge difference. And it really gives us the motivation to continue to make these great episodes and continue to reach out to these awesome people to share insights with you guys. So if you guys don't mind, take a few minutes right now, stop by Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. I mean, it helps gives us feedback for the effort that we're putting in. And also it helps spread the message to a broader audience. So, we would greatly appreciate if you could do that. But also without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the podcast. Well, hey, Andrew, great to see you this fine afternoon.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and thanks for making the time.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah. This is a long time coming too, because I remember we've had this on the docket for a while, and I've been excited to kind of dive in. And offline we were talking about a little bit about our backgrounds, and I found out that you're Latino as well. So it's it's great to just we're kind of chopping it up in Spanish just before this. So it's nice to be able to connect with another Latino as well. So
likewise, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what we typically do when we first get started with a podcast is we like to learn a little bit more about the guests themselves. So if you don't mind kind of sharing your backstory, I think that'd be great.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Ecuador. So Spanish is my first language. I moved here in 93 and really just went to high school, grew up in North Orange County, Yorba Linda. And my parents didn't, have money to put myself through college or my brother. So I had two things going for me. One, it was a self-taught programmer. I knew how to code, but I was really, really shy and really could not be having this conversation to have with you. And it really I just felt really trapped. So, and I also needed to make money. So I said, I need to get myself somewhere where I'm going to be put out of my comfort zone so I can develop social skills. And luckily I had read a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and stumble upon that they had, a course and trainers and, people that are like masters of that, and ended up being a commercial real estate broker who was looking for somebody to help him and his team. And I knew that going into sales would definitely, help me kind of get really uncomfortable to the point where I could really just develop that skill set. He didn't hire me. So this was a guy named Doug Garrett at Lee & Associates in Orange, the Orange office, but he did refer me to Randy Mason at Lee & Associates in Irvine, and we hit it off right away. So I was there. I started when I was 19 or 20. I want to say 19. And long story short, saw how the way the business was going, made a lot of cold calls, did in-person cold calls. Within 6 months, I was a different person. But then I saw the way that business was being done, and with the internet, it was late 90s, so it was 1999, 2000. I whipped up some websites and some automations that I had built on Visual Basic back then, pretty basic computer programs, and I was able to generate leads using the internet and technology. And then I continued to expand upon that and actually build my own team at Lee. So I had I was top 5 of the top 10. I was a partner and senior vice president at Lee & Associates in Irvine. That's the first office that Billy opened, Bill Lee, after he left Grubb. And I became partner pretty quickly. So I think I was 24 when I became vice president. A year and a half later, I became senior vice president. I love the Lee platform because, you split 50-50, but at the end of the year, you get profit sharing, and usually your splits end up being like 90% on average. So pretty good teams. A lot of the people that I hired are still there. Mia Pham, Eric Darnell, Skylar Serrano, they're all vice presidents and senior vice presidents. And I'm really proud of those individuals. And I've learned a ton from them because, your best people are actually your mentors in disguise.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I can only imagine. I mean, the opportunity to manage other people is a unique honor, and it is something you learn a lot about. I mean, I had the opportunity to be able to manage people in the past, and it is a completely different skill set that you're exercising, and you learn just as much from the other person, if not more, than they learn from you as well. So I could definitely relate to that as well. And
it definitely lets the ghost out of the closet, because you learn a lot about yourself and your weaknesses and where you really just suck at life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. And, just because you can hold yourself accountable doesn't necessarily mean that you can hold the team to be able to reach the goals that they need to achieve. And so, that's a completely different skill set. So you could be a phenomenal individual performer, but if you're not willing to expand your abilities, you're not going to be an effective manager and, leader as a whole. So, I think that, obviously those experiences that you had there, and now the opportunity for you to be able to, create Digsy and operate it as you have been over the last several years. I mean, it's obviously, I'm sure this has paid dividends, not only personally, but obviously professionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a growing experience. It's looking back at between starting a tech company in the commercial real estate industry and having been a broker, you already have a business model that works. You go find a client, you sell them something or lease them something, you make money. But when you start building a company, you go, hey, you're inventing new business models and doing things. So it's not for the faint of heart. So I love my job as a CEO and co-founder of Digsy, but it's definitely something that is a lot harder, very, very tough to do. And it's not, you definitely have to be willing to, like I mentioned, I put myself out of my comfort zone. It seems like I'm just addicted to risk. I put myself in this position too much.
Yeah.
No,
speaking of the risks there, like I know you said you met someone that was in commercial real estate. Was there ever like a thought of you actually going like to the residential sector, or was it always commercial and that's where we're at?
Always commercial. I've always been much more of a business mind. I don't read the most basic way to put it is like, if you just look at my reading diet, right? I don't read novels. I don't read fiction. I think I've only read like maybe 3 fiction books in my entire life. But it's really about like business self-development, things that I can learn from and apply, and nerdy things like quantum physics and things like that I'm really into, because it's just like really spooky stuff that happens that just seems like magic that shouldn't be happening in the real world. So those are things that are stimulating for me. So the business side and being able to, when you're in tenant rep, talking to somebody who's built a tech company or a biotech company, or they've built a big services business or a manufacturing company, that is stimulating. But if you're just talking to somebody and just showing them a house, it just never appealed to me.
Yeah. No, it seems to be the sentiment we get from most people that we interview, is that the thought process for residential versus commercial. I mean, commercial, obviously much more business heavy, numbers focused, and you get to deal with a variety of different potential clients that have operated.
And you get the weekends off.
And you get, exactly. No, you're right. 100%. I mean, there's no doubt
and it's
about
9
that.
to 5, but we don't really work 9 to 5, but you get it.
Yeah. The structure is there. Whereas with residential, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like you're at the beck and call of someone on a day-to-day basis, especially on the brokerage side for sure. One thing I wanted to touch on, and obviously you've kind of alluded to it in the past, is, you had a ton of success on the brokerage end. Obviously senior vice president at 26, that's very impressive. No, not many people have that type of success in the industry that early on. What made you take that leap of faith into starting Digsy? Because you're right, it is a very it's a brand new endeavor, and obviously you have a tech background. Interestingly enough, I come from a tech background myself. I was a developer and consultant for 5 years prior to jumping in. I studied engineering in college and then got into the brokerage space about 2.5, 3 years ago. So I had the inverse, I guess.
Yeah. That's great. I did not know that about. Did we just become best friends? Do you want to do karate in the basement?
Do you want to do karate in the basement? You probably kicked my butt there. I mean, I wrestled, but not karate kicks. No.
Yeah.
It was a line. That was a line from Step Brothers. That Will Ferrell.
Brothers, yeah.
I remember that. I remember.
Yeah.
Such a great movie. So I'll tell you. So I was in as a broker for 13 years. I had built technologies internally. And while I was doing that, so when I started in commercial real estate, what really kept me in commercial real estate was I started in late 90s, early 2000s. So 99, 2001, it was like the .com. So I got to meet a lot of people who had built tech companies, raised millions of dollars. And a lot of my clients, even though that imploded, they had made money. Some of them cashed out in between rounds. And I really just loved talking to these people, like when we weren't working together, and just really wanted to learn what it was. But it just seemed like it just had like this affinity and like this gravitational pull towards that type of environment. And I had found myself building a lot of technologies internally, like automations, and Salesforce at the time was like the only cloud-based system that you could really automate. And then we took it a step beyond that, where if somebody inquired on something, you could press a button and it would say, okay, these are the buildings, like the building that they're asking about, that you should cross sell. And I really found that fascinating. What happened to me was, in all my conversations with my past clients, is like, dude, you're not a real estate guy. Like, you know about technology, you know this, you should start something. And this was a conversation that I had for 10 years. And then during my last year, I would say the last 18 months at Lee and Associates, I really wanted to start something, but I was unsure that I would want to take the risk. Because, I was making a ton of money there. I had a great team. I was in my early 30s. Or actually, was I in my early 30s? I think I was about to turn 30. And the thing was, my clients and my friends and advisors were telling me for years to go do something, and I was just too much of a wuss to actually make the decision. But then during those last 18 months, I started really just like trying to create technology. So I created this effective rent calculator that you could just punch numbers in, and then it would give you the annual and the monthly rental rate. And that was web-based and it was free. And that was a fun project for me. And then I created a way to post a requirement and blast it to all the brokers in the market. It was a thing called Broker Roster, and I had really a lot of fun with that. And it really came down to saying, look, I got this itch, and if I don't jump off and give it a go, I'm going to have this monkey on my back, and I'm going to have this painful regret for not going out there and trying it. And there was a saying by Jim Rohn, the motivational speaker. He passed away many years ago, but it was, the pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. And that really stuck with me. So I said, I've got cash in the bank. All I owe is my house that I own, my car. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. Like, right now is the time to do it. So I did jump off. And then the painful thing of like starting a company and screwing up. So I had two rounds before Digsy of failed projects before. And you definitely develop scar tissue and you learn a lot. And that's sort of what's helped us, kind of guide. And you get great mentors and investors who help you out along the way. And but it's a challenging thing, especially in commercial real estate, because there's so many conflicting parties. Like, the building owner wants to lease their and then the broker doesn't want to do extra amount of work. It just, and then you have like property management and different things here that just kind of creates a lot of problems. So anyway, I went on a rant there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it makes sense. And I mean, you're selling something that, that's one of the things that I, value through my experience as well, being in the tech space, because I was in the consulting side and development as well. And so trying to pitch a solution to someone who doesn't necessarily have the same background you do, that understands the X's and O's of how these things work together, and then, relaying the message over to them saying this could be of value to you, that also is a skill that you have to acquire over time, because you inherently know why this could be valuable, but the proposition has to be such that all the parties that need to make the decision also understand that as well. So one thing that I was kind of interested in hear your take on was, what were some of the struggles? You mentioned some of the challenges that you had faced. I mean, could you kind of reference a few of those, and then what ultimately helped you dive into Digsy and kind of scale it from there?
Yeah. So two things that always pop up, because these questions do come up often in between, like when founders, reach out to me or introduce to me to help them out. Especially, I get a lot of, Hispanic founders like us that reach out to me. So not understanding total addressable market. So TAM, it was the reason why the first two projects failed. And then the second one is fundraising. So fundraising is a whole different skill set. You have to not only understand the total addressable market, but then you have to pick up the skills and know how to really just play the game of raising money. And that was tough. I remember we were raising $500,000. Well, actually, we went out trying to raise $2 million when we didn't even have a revenue model for one of the first projects. And then we lower that. And I think in a period of 8 months, I had only raised like 150,000. And we said, okay, what we really need is we need $500,000, or actually $400,000. And then I was super depressed, by the way. I was like crying, I was running out of money in my bank account because I was funding the thing. Super stressful. And like out of this $500,000, because we ended up going from 2 million, like really just learning that you don't want to raise that much money because you really need it to get to the next milestone. That's another thing, right? Thinking of things as like peeling risk off the onion and then going, I only need money to get to this milestone because it'll make the company this much worth. And then you kind of use them as like stepping stones to get to the end destination. But then when we lowered it to 400,000, it was after 8 months only raising 150. It just became really, really depressing. And literally me crying like tears, right? And I hadn't cried in I don't know how many years, and just feeling really depressed. And then one of the venture capitalists that had actually turned us down, that was one of the reasons why I was crying, and I don't cry often, but it was just a lot of emotional and a lot of stress. Referred me to one of the people that they had put $1 million plus into their companies. I'm like, oh, here, great. But I meet this guy and he's like, well, so what are you doing? What's your company? And this and that. And it's like, what are you struggling with? Told him raising money. And then he basically just said, well, you're doing it wrong. This is how you do it. And I went off that meeting going, shit, okay. And then literally in the next like 4 months, I had oversubscribed. I think we ended up with like almost $500,000. So that was one. Total addressable market is rough. So many people want to, I'll give you the prime example is CRM. A lot of companies trying to do CRM for commercial real estate brokers. There's no billion-dollar company in that space. So for example, if you not understanding the market, the total addressable market is not going to be every freaking broker. It's going to be the brokers that are selling. And then you got to go of the brokers who are selling, who are currently using CRM, because everybody needs it. And you got to sell it to like each individual team or each individual person. It's not like you can just go to like CBRE, Dallas and sell the entire office, because they already have solutions and the brokers won't use it because they don't want to gather data. So it's like total addressable market, and then going, okay, out of the addressable market, who's really my customer? And do I have product market fit? Like, are they going to buy from me? And even if they are going to buy from me, like, how many sales do I have to make to get, a $30,000 account? So that's what happened. And then are they really going to pay for the solution? Right. So it became, I could spend hours talking about the total addressable market, but you can have a market of $1 billion, but then when you really narrow it down and you see the sales, the go-to-market strategy stuff, it gets skinny. And that's where we had to let go of those projects. We had raised, almost $500,000 at that point, and we go, there's no way this thing's gonna make money. And it wasn't a CRM that we were building. It was the initial project that we had raised money for was this broker roster thing, which was poster requirement and blasted. But you come to find out, even if people can't find the product, a lot of brokers don't want to tell the world that they're looking for something, even though they want to. They don't want to lose control. So yeah, we effed up.
No, yeah, I know, but that was a revelation you came to through those experiences, and I appreciate you being raw about those emotions, because I can only imagine.
It's the only thing that I can do to value. It's to help you guys. It's not, dandelions, cotton candies, unicorns, and roses in life. Mm-hmm. Like, hard work is hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even if you put in the hard work, a lot of times you run into those walls, and it's tough, man. And I can only imagine the stress that you must have been under. And, even within my side, I didn't have nearly the experience you had. I had obviously a more corporate W-2 type of role, and jumping into the brokerage side of things. And,
that's a wake-up call.
It's a huge wake-up call, man.
You got to eat what you kill.
Absolutely. And starting right before COVID, and like starting to work with people and getting some momentum. And then all of a sudden, your clients call you saying, hey, the world shut down. Like, I'm not doing anything. And you're in your house for like 3 or 4 months. That's stressful. Like, and I went through a period of time where I was like, sweating bullets because I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen over the next, year. I mean, we didn't really know what was going to happen, and everyone thought COVID was going to be over after a couple months, and then ultimately that wasn't the case. And it's struggles, and life is all about struggles, and what you learn from those struggles. You eventually come out the other side, and hopefully you're in a better position than you were before. But I think the mindset is really the key there, just to kind of keep moving forward.
And you just illustrated exactly why alcohol sales skyrocketed during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, mental health is a big deal, man, and I know plenty of people out there that struggled hard through COVID. And a lot of times it was the isolation and not being around people. I mean, that we're humans, we need social interaction, and that obviously contributed to what you're referencing. So,
Andrew, we all been there. Own a commercial GC company, man, and I was there first year. I was struggling. I own several businesses. This one has just stuck more than most. And so, man, I get it. So that emotion.
And your job is stressful because you have like so many people like that depend on you, and then you have your subcontractors. I mean, man, I'll send you hugs and kisses after this.
Yeah,
it's
highly dependent on me. So, so I know. So you went through all the struggles, and you came to Dixie. You landed. You built this. And so if you can elaborate like what type of platform it is and just explain to the listeners exactly what Dixie is. This is your sales pitch. We're going to get you some clients here.
So really Dixie, for what most people know it, is basically it's the call and response to LoopNet getting really expensive. So being able to list your properties online. So when people are searching for office, industrial, retail, land, multifamily, et cetera, for lease or for sale, you can list it and expose it to people searching on Google for free. And then people who are seeking that product can also get it for free. So the one thing is, it's really hard to make sense of having a free platform. You got to figure out a way to monetize. And then there's so many listing services that are trying to get into the commercial real estate property owners' pockets or the brokers' pockets, et cetera. So you've got, the usual suspects out there. I'm not going to name any of them, but there's just tons and tons of listing services fighting and vying for the dollars in the pockets. So what we did was different. We said, hey, if we make this platform free, 100% free, what we can do is we have a lot of value. One, we have really good presence on Google on the first page. At the same time, so they've got money. You've got the brokers, the property managers, people who want to lease it on their own. And then what we do is through value add service of what people need. So for example, they need professional photography that makes the buildings pop, whether it's aerial drone or still. Especially during COVID, what spiked a lot was these 3D Matterport tours, or you need a video to market an investment with music, graphics, etc. To get professional level quality things, there's a lot of friction and energy and time that has to be burned. If you don't already have somebody who can do all four of the videography, the virtual tours, or the photography, you have to go out there and find them. And if you find them, you have to do, some due diligence to make sure that their work is great. And then when you hire them, you have to hope that the work shows what you went into business with. And then if you have, especially investment brokers, I have property today in Kansas, but I need one in New Mexico tomorrow, you have to start the whole thing again. So what we did is we basically said, okay, pictures and videos and virtual tours sell buildings, right? So the property owner can definitely pay. The investment brokers can definitely pay, and the brokers that have a lot of listings pay, and anybody who really wants to market their property. So we built basically a network of photographers, virtual tour people, drone and videographers throughout the US. So then basically, brokers and property owners just go to Digsy, and then they can say, okay, here's my building. I need drone or professional photography, et cetera. In this state, this, and that, and they have one central platform to do it. So they can basically think about it as I can list and search for free, but if I need my marketing materials to really make my buildings pop, what I can do is I can just go through one platform. And then about 2.5 years ago, what we discovered is, in addition to photography, whether it's a broker or anybody who's a commercial real estate professional also need help quickly running and growing their business, scale up and scale down. The problem that we've had in commercial real estate is that it's such a niche market. It's not like residential where you have millions of agents. You have hundreds of thousands of commercial real estate professionals. So that means that if I need somebody to, find property owner information, cold call to generate leads for me, if I need a graphics person who can create OMs, offering memorandums, brochures, social media marketing stuff, or if I need a general admin, I have to, similar to the photographer, but a lot more involved, I have to go out, post job listings. So I have to create the job listing, post job listings, review like a ton of applications, go back and forth, schedule interviews. Then I spend 5 to 10 hours interviewing 5 to 10 people, and then I hire the person. But because commercial real estate's so niche, now I have to spend the time to train the person on the information systems. If I'm having cold call generate leads, I have to, create scripts and experiment to see what works. I have to manage them to make sure that they're working. I have to monitor their productivity. So you can see, as a professional in commercial real estate, between tours, talking to clients, cold calling, generate your own business, showing buildings like what I mentioned earlier, and then trying to squeeze in lunch, you don't have time to do all these things. So basically the same model that we used for the photography and virtual tour people, we basically did the same thing for individuals that are trained to run commercial real estate business. So we have, for example, clients at CBRE, Marcus and Millichap, SVN, Sperry, Lee and Associates, Cushman and Wakefield, that, hire people to generate business for them or do all their OMs and brochures, or just do general admin or collect information. And they can be, a lot of them will hire 1 or 2 or 3, and they're basically, we can get them up and running in as little as 14 business days, which is unheard of, because usually it takes you 3 months to fill a vacancy. Or a job listing, and then you have to spend 60 to 90 days training and hope they stick around. So that's been very successful for us, is these value add services that allow you to get your photography, your marketing materials, and also get very quick trained and effective help running and growing the business has been a big hit for us. So Digsy is a search engine that can also help you run and grow your commercial real estate business.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just saying that it just sounds like a lot of value that you're just giving out to help a lot of people at once, and I commend you for that. That it sounds like a great platform.
So sometimes the question comes, it's like, why do you have this listing service for free? Isn't that a distraction from the photography in that? Well, interestingly enough, is that generates the leads to that, because they come in, a new person, we never even heard of like XYZ commercial in like Indianapolis. We wouldn't know these people because they're not at the big firms, but they, or even like regional firms that maybe have 5 or 10 offices that we've never heard of. They come in and they list their properties, but then our sales team like makes them aware, or they get our marketing drips and they go, wait, I can do this. And then all of a sudden it's basically lead generation for us. So they get value from marketing their properties for free. We get value because they're raising their hands and going, I'm your candidate to sell your business and services to me. So it works out really well. It's phenomenal lead generation for us.
Oh, it's ingenious, really. I mean, like you said, you're not playing the game of, the co-stars and the loop nets per se. I mean, obviously you're offering those solutions, but the real value you provide is the comprehensive, platform to be able to make sure that you can grow your business. And as you mentioned before, marketing is key to selling properties for top dollar. I mean, I can't tell you the difference that it's made in my business when I, utilize, video and professional photographs and all that other things. Like the impact it has on, people's willingness to reach out and inquire about a property is just night and day. I haven't been able to quantify it per se, but I have noticed significant impact in the difference between the listings that I used to just use my iPhone on when I first started, when I didn't have the resources, versus now where it's like, I mean, it just makes a huge difference. And even if the property itself, inherently isn't like the greatest thing in the world, as you can imagine, it still makes a huge impact in people's ability just to reach out and inquire about it. So
it's true.
I can't speak to that any more than what you've just mentioned. And so from the perspective of the, tenants, because I know that obviously it is a platform whereby people can advertise their properties on and everything else. Like, I guess what value proposition is there a focus on, the potential tenants and whatever else? Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah. So the value for the tenant is that they're able to get all the information that they need in a free platform, right?
Mhm.
That's easy for them to understand. None of this like, jargon that doesn't make sense for a lot of people. So if I'm a tenant, I'm just going to type in, warehouse space for sale or for lease, Dallas, and then they go on Digsy and then they start searching for properties there, and there's no restriction. They get access to all the data, and then they can reach out to the agents directly and, go see the property and hopefully lease it or purchase it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as you mentioned before, some of the other listing platforms, for those of you guys who don't know, like, they're pay to play a lot of times. So like, in order for you to, even see the buildings, sometimes it requires you to have, an actual account with them and, paid account, which,
and a lot of these services aren't accessible, like
Yeah.
to the end user.
Mhm.
I mean, what you see a lot on the internet is you see a lot of things that either just do investment sales and then maybe a little bit of leasing. But out of the gate, we've always done sales and leasing on the platform because, they're just as equally important. And at the same time, what commercial real estate professional goes, oh, I can't list this because they don't do sale listings, or I can't list this because they don't do lease listings. That's a cognitive roadblock for the commercial real estate professionals. They just forget about you. So out of the gate, we started off with sales and leasing.
That's great.
Nice. So how long has Dixie been? Is it 4 or 5 years now?
It's 5. I would say it's like 5.5.
Okay.
So we started building it. I want to say it was like 2015. Was it 2015? No, 2016. Yeah. So like about 6 years now.
Nice. So what are the future goals for Dixie? Like, is there a high up, huge grand goal, or do you just have a 5-year term or like a goal, or what do you got?
Yeah.
I'm
So
curious to see this.
luckily, our investors are pretty happy with the performance. So usually we grow at like 20-30% clip, which is really high, which is great for us. The main thing right now that we're focused on is really just beefing up the operation internally. So not only people, but the technologies. There's a lot of improvements we want to make to the website because the search experiences and just the design. In certain parts of our website, you'll see you'll kind of go to certain pages and go, okay, I can kind of see where the new design's coming from. So we're pretty excited about that. But we want to improve the search experience and just the experience on the software side and the website itself for the commercial real estate professionals and the searchers. And then really we're trying to staff up because we need a lot more talent internally to really just grow this thing. But I'm not here to build, it's a small company. Like when we look at our TAM between the photography side and the, being able to have this marketplace of trained commercial real estate people that you can hire full-time or part-time, your TAM is like north of $30 billion a year. That's money spent, right? Your total addressable market. And I'm actually probably even leaving several $1 billion in there. And that's just in the commercial real estate space. So it's a pretty big thing. So we can easily be a $1 billion company. The thing is, we definitely need to, we're not raising money right now. We have plenty of cash in the bank, but we definitely need to scale up sometime in, whether it's this year or next year, et cetera, because we have high ambitions to build a big business. But the main thing that we discipline ourselves and we talk about as a team on a weekly basis, because we have a weekly sync meeting between the leadership, is always reminding ourselves that it's not about building a $1 billion company. It's really about making sure that we are driving true and exceptional value to the customer. And we have two customers, as you may imagine. We have the searcher and we have the commercial real estate professional. We monetize the commercial real estate professional. So those are equally important. So it does create a little bit of fragmentation because you have to take two into account, but you can always prioritize, and just as long as you're, really making sure that you're harmonizing those two different sound waves, you can keep yourself in check. But really, it's just what we've been doing. We're in growth mode right now. I just looked at our sales numbers from, all the sales contracts that were signed in April versus the sales contracts that were in May. And I'm just going, oh my God, we need to hire a lot more people, because I was not anticipating for certain strategies that we had to work this well. We're actually in a little bit of a bind. So right now we're just staffing up, Jeff.
Yeah. And that's gonna lend itself to a different skill set where you have to onboard people quickly, train them up, and you've already kind of had that experience, I guess, on the training side for the professionals that you offer to the real estate professionals. But it's a constant learning experience, Andrew.
It is. And you just, every time that you kind of like move up that ladder is like, okay, I knew what to do with the rung before, but what do I do with the rung above? Because it's like, okay, what do I have to look for? So, most of my time these days is spent mainly just having conversations with people who have been there before, our investors, our board of directors, other founders, just to kind of, get a little taste of the landscape of what becomes unknown territory above you. And that, for me at least, it's nerve-wracking when you just don't know what you don't know. So that's what really allows me, spending that time and talking with other people who have been there before and kind of gain the lay of the land, helps convert that nervousness into confidence.
Yeah. And your propensity to take risk. I mean, that's also something that, you got to highlight, is that, not everyone's willing to take the risk and put themselves in a position to get to that next rung. They get comfortable in a position and they just kind of sit there. So you got to also highlight that as well.
Let me kind of jive on that really quick, because I definitely want to, dance on that groove really quick. So one thing that we did, and it was actually thanks to my co-founder who started this, my co-founder, Alex, many years ago, we started on Fridays, we do what's called a wrap-up meeting. And basically, we started doing it at 4:00. So before, we were all in the office, and now, of course, people are working remotely. So there's like Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. And all it is everybody is meeting, and then they celebrate their wins for the week. Like, what are you proud of that you accomplished? And it creates this camaraderie. One thing that we introduced, I want to say a couple years back, was also celebrating fuck ups, so F ups, if you want to bleep that. And I really, if you're not taking risks, I mean, you can calculate things, but if you're not taking risk or trying to innovate or even disrupt yourself, what happens is it's like inflation, right? $1 today is less than $1 tomorrow. That's the same thing if you're not taking risk. And because people that play it safe are decaying. So one thing, in addition to celebrating the the wins that each team member had for the weekend, they sit there and one goes and that person picks the other and they go what they're proud of for the week. We started celebrating the F ups, and it might be like, I sent the wrong contract, I F this up, or I dropped the ball on this other things too. But it's saying it out loud, and then we clap. We say, oh, that's great. And the one thing is, because you did that, you don't ever want to come back and not learn from that experience. But we encourage people to take risks. Just the culture that we breed is like, look, you guys work really hard. Pain stings. Just fix it afterwards. It's not like going to be perfect, like you're never going to do it again, but just learn from it. Keep on going. Sometimes you just have to make a decision. We're not going to fire you unless, like, literally, like, you write a nasty email to the Pope or something with the Digsy email address. But the thing is, we need to create that culture in which you have to at least try to poke through the envelope, because if not, your company's dying. And people should not be penalized for risk. People should be, rewarded for thinking creatively, et cetera. Now, you can go off the spectrum and you can have people just do all kinds of things all day long that are just effing up all the time. But I think, simply because you're voicing it and people are cheering you on, you don't want to come back and do that same thing again. So it kind of works to put it out in the world. And that's what we've done, because risk is very important, not only at the founder and entrepreneur level, but you also need your people to be constantly, trying things out, but also be calculated and responsible in the process.
Absolutely. Great insights, really, on that front. That's awesome. So one thing I wanted to ask you, and this is, typically what we like to ask our guests near the end of the podcast, is related to, the most impactful book they've ever read. And the reason why we ask this is because, Jeff and I are voracious readers. Our audience members are also very voracious readers. And, I can't tell you how many books that we've had shared with us that now are on my reading list. And, it's kind of a, what do you call it? A selfish question for me. But, I kind of wanted to pose the question to you. What is one of the most impactful books you've ever read?
So the most impactful book I've ever read is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's very well put together, and it teaches you about how to be responsible with, your family and your coworkers, your employees, etc. But most importantly, it's not what happens to you, is what you do. I don't want to say reacting is a choice. So it teaches you around and you having control and making choices. Now, you are in command of your own self. The environment will do whatever, but it's your choice whether you let that ruin your mood or you let it do something else. And, sometimes we relegate back to, the human condition, which is, reacting, getting upset at something, but just being able to be proactive, which is like, okay, this happened. I don't have to react that way. I can take a step back and look at it like as if I'm an audience member looking at myself in this event. That's helped me tremendously in business and in my personal relationship with my wife, and when we were dating, etc., because it helps you value things differently and it gives you so much power. I mean, it feels like you are in control because you are in control. Now, you're not always going to stay on the bus. Sometimes we fall out. I fall out quite often, but it's good that, constantly remind yourself of those things. But that's one of the best books if you guys haven't read it, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'd say that's one that, go ahead, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, that's one that I've read multiple times. It is a very good book. So, yeah, I'm glad you said that one, because it doesn't be out there, and you should definitely read it. You should definitely read it.
Definitely.
It's one of those books that's like Raphael. It's like one of those books that's almost like a Bible. It's crazy. It's almost like a religious book. It has nothing to do with religion, but it almost makes you feel like the people who have read it and who are into it, it feels like a little cult.
Definitely. No, and you mentioned the reactiveness to different stimuli within the environment. There's this book
Did
that
I lose
read
you guys?
No, I'm are you here?
You guys there?
Yeah. You
okay.
hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
It's synced up. Yeah.
We can edit. Yeah. But so one of the books that I read that I thought was super impactful, that kind of references this negative stimuli piece, which you mentioned, is the man's search for meaning. And it talks about
Viktor Frankl. I read that too.
Frankl. Phenomenal book, but it kind of changes your perspective on life, because you realize that every negative stimuli out there, like I mean, what may be bad in your life pales in comparison to someone else's life that has gone through in history. And so when you encounter these negative stimuli that could historically may have made you, put you in a position where you're just really down on yourself and really feel like you're down and out, you start putting it into perspective and say, okay, well, can I choose a different way to react to this stimuli? And I can't tell you how impactful that's been in my life. I felt like in the past, I'd always react to things that were negative, perceived to be negative in my life, in a certain way that really didn't benefit me at all. And then when I started realizing that I can, take how I'm feeling and choose an alternate path, I mean, that would have been a game changer for me.
It's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just want to extract that piece, because obviously, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, phenomenal book, by the way. I'm also have read it twice, once in reading it and then the other on Audible, which is,
it's funny. You guys just made me realize that I have the Audible version, and I've read the book twice, and I've listened to it probably 2 or 3 times. And it's one of those books that you always get something new every time you reread it or listen to it again.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure. Andrew, I just want to say we appreciate you coming on this podcast. I know I've gained a ton of value from, especially on the growing a business piece. I love that part. So one of the things that we actually have here at the CRE Academy is the CRE Treasure Chest, which is a repository of things that our clients and people that came on and guests that gave us, and it can be all kinds of slews, a PDF or a case study, something kind of in your realm to give to the viewers that we give out that they can take value from. So
yeah, so a couple things that some strategies, for example, that we employ with the virtual assistants, the trained commercial real estate assistant service, is like these scripts, because we have hundreds of clients, so we've learned what sequence of questions, whether it's a seller or you're approaching tenants, like what series of questions, how to open it up, etc. I can make those available. So I'll open source it, and I don't know if you guys want me to send them to you and you'll put them on your website, or you guys can let me know later so I can give that. There's also a PDF about hacks on how to generate more commercial real estate like leads, whether it's a seller or a tenant, etc. So I can give you guys that PDF as well, so that the listeners can download and get some value from it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure our audience will gain a ton of value from that. And we actually have a commercial real estate treasure chest website that people can access. And what we'll do is we'll have it. We have like a thumbnail that's going to be attributable to this podcast episode, and right below it, they'll be able to access the information. So we'll communicate afterwards as well. So
perfect.
Get that information.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that information.
That's awesome, man. Really. And so really, Andrew, great conversation. Great to meet you. I feel like we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways.
We are. We're both nerds, and we're both originally, you're part Italian. My great grandmother was Italian, and you're Hispanic, and I'm Hispanic, and it's great. I just feel bad for Jeff. He's like the only white dude here.
Yeah.
Well, man.
He's a kindred spirit too, though, because he's an impressive guy.
So actually, most people will think that me and you work for Jeff. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, That's it.
It's the opposite right now.
No. But no, we really do appreciate your time, Andrew. I know you're very busy with what you're doing right now, and it is a great solution that you're offering to the marketplace, and we're really excited to see your growth over the next few years.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
And one thing I wanted to ask you was, if people want to learn more about the solution or get in contact with you for some reason because they want to, potentially get onboarded, how exactly can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, so they can go to Get Digsy. So if they want to see the products themselves, they can go to getdigsy.com. So GET as in Tom, D as in dog, IGSY.com / you can go straight to the section. So it'd be getdigsy.com / products. So plural products. And then you'll be able to see the photography, the free online listing platform. And then if you want to get help with, trained commercial real estate people to help you grow your business or run your business, whether it's admin, marketing, graphics, or cold calling, lead generation, you guys can just contact the sales team through there. So getdigsy.com / products.
That's awesome. Yeah. So for those of you guys who are listening in a podcast format, we'll share that in the description. So if you guys want to access the description, the link will be there for you to be able to get in contact. And then if you guys are watching this on YouTube, again, it'll be in the description below. So just navigate down there and you can do so that way as well. So again, thank you all so much for stopping by. If you guys are watching this in a YouTube format, we would greatly appreciate it if you can like and subscribe to this channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm, ensures more and more people can hear this message. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, whether Spotify or Apple Podcast, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review. We've seen a significant uptick in our downloads as a result of you guys engaging with the podcast and actually leaving 5-star reviews. So if you don't mind taking a second to be able to do that, that would be phenomenal, and we would greatly appreciate it. So thanks again so much for stopping by, and we'll see you all next time.